Hello again, everyone. In this session, we want to take a look at Ntfs quotas. Ntfs quotas, also known as disk quotas, allow you, the administrator, to control and manage the size of the disk space used by your users on the file systems of your servers and workstations. Windows servers support two types of quotas. You have the File Server Resource Manager quota, which you configure from the File Server Resource Manager role. And then you have the Ntfs quotas, which are the quotas that you will configure on a disk or a volume. We're going to concentrate our session today on Ntfs quotas. When you configure quotas on a disk, what you are really doing is saying that for this particular user or for the users who use that disk, you want to limit the space that they can save work on or they can write work to for that disk. You can say that, for example, you want a user to have 200 gigabytes of space that they can use to save their work. You can also deny the space to users exceeding the quota limit. So if you set a certain quota limit, you can then choose to say that if the person exceeds that limit, then they will not be able to save anything else on the disk. When the user exceeds the quota limit, you can choose to log an event. Then you also have a warning level or warning limit where you will say that when the user reaches a certain amount of gigabits, that is, that they will get a warning, and you will see that warning because you will have logged the event. We're going to take a look at configuring disk quotas for users. We're going to open File Explorer and we're going to choose the disk that we want to look at. And usually you should create your quotas on an Ntfs disk, not the disk that has your operating system. So maybe you have the C drive, your system files, and then you might have the D drive where you store files and folders for your users. So the best scenario would be to use your D drive to configure the quotas because that's where you should have the files for your users. In our example, we're going to be using the C drive just for example purposes. So we want to right click on the drive and click on Properties. We go to the Quota tab and we click on Quota. By default, quotas are disabled. So you want to click on Enable Quota Management. Now you have a choice here of saying that you want to deny the space to users exceeding the quota limit. So if you set a quota limit and somebody exceeds that quota limit and you check deny the space, then that person isn't going to be able to save anything else on that disk once they have reached their limit. Here you can say do not limit the space, or you can say limit the space. When we are setting quotas here, we're setting the same identical quota for everyone using this disk. If you want to set individual limit for quotas, you have to go down here to quota entries. But let's look at setting the limit first. Let's say we want to limit users to 250 gigabits, and we want to set the warning level to 200 so that when the user reaches 200, we have a warning. Here you can choose to log the event when a user exceeds the quota limit, and you can choose also to log the event when a user exceeds the warning limit. So you will set this if you wanted to set the same identical limit for everyone using the disk. You simply click apply and OK. Now let's click here on quota entries, because this is where you will actually see the quotas that are set. Here we have some tabs, and you see we have a quota entry here for Ben Smith. I am going to delete that quota entry because I want to set it so you can see it. So we're going to go to quota. I'm going to say new quota entry, because we now want to set a different limit for a particular user or a particular group. So we're going to actually find the person, and we have Ben. We're going to set a limit for Ben. So you click on Ben and say OK. Say OK a second time, and here you can click on limit this space. Notice you have user Ben Smith at contoso.com. So you're actually now doing a quota only for Ben. So you're going to limit his space maybe to 300. Give him a little bit more space. And you're going to set his warning at, let's say, 250. And you click on OK. So now you can see here his quota limit and his warning level. And then on the amount used, you'll be able to come and look and see the amount that he has used. Let's do another one. We're going to do quota, new quota entry, and this time we're going to choose someone else. We're going to choose Asha. So you click on OK. OK a second time, and you want to limit Asha to 400 gig. And you're going to set her warning limit to 350. So now you have two people that you have set quotas on. And within the quota entry view, you can actually see the amount of gigs that the person has used. You can see the limit that you set, and you can see the warning level. Very simple and easy to set quotas using Ntfs or disk quotas. So remember that when you set the quota for the first time without going into quota entries, it means that that quota is set for everyone using the disk. If you want to set quotas individually, you have to click on the quota entry box, say new entry, and set the quotas for that person. We want to close the quota entry box, close the disk property box. And remember, it's not a good idea to set quotas on your local C drive, which is your system drive. You might want to set quotas on other drives that you use to keep your file shares. We're going to close this box. We also want to take a look at creating quotas using File Server Resource Manager. So we first have to add that role. So we're going to click on Manage, Add Roles and Features. Then we want to click on Next at the Before You Begin screen. At Installation Type screen, we also want to click on Next. And at the Destination screen, we want to click on Next. We're looking for File Server Resource Manager, so we have to expand file and storage services. And then we have to expand file and iSCSI services. We are looking for File Server Resource Manager. So we click on File Server Resource Manager and we click Add Features. Click on Next to continue. On the feature screen, we click on Next again. And then we click on Install. So this type of quota can only be set if you install this File Server Resource Manager feature, whereas the other quotas, the disk quotas and Ntfs quotas, can be set on the volume or disk of your server or your client machine. Installation succeeded, so we want to click on Close. Then we want to go and access the File Server Resource Manager, so we click on Tools and we click on File Server Resource Manager. You want to click on Quota Management. Let's expand Quota Management. As we see here that we have quotas and we have quota templates. There are already some ready-made quota templates that we can use. If you click on quota templates, you can see that there are templates here. Create your quotas. You can click on quotas and then click on Create Quota. You have your quota box here. And you have to browse for the folder or the path where you want to create the quota. As you can see here, for the Ntfs or disk quotas, we created a quota, or we could have created the quota only on the disk. But if you're using File Server Resource Manager, you can actually create a quota on a folder. So you would browse and you would actually look for the folder that you wanted to use to create the quota on. So we're going to look for a folder. And let's say that we're going to use the desktop for our example. So everything that is saved to the desktop will have a quota on it. So again, to differentiate, for disk quotas, we could only use the disk or the volume. But for File Server Resource Manager, we can create quotas based on what people have in their folders or directories. You can base your quota on some of the templates that are there, and let's click the down arrow to see the templates. You have different limits, and you can use that to base your quota on. Or you can define your own quota properties here. Click on Define Your Quota Properties. Click Custom Quota Properties, and you can set your properties. You can choose one of these. Here, you can put a description. You can change your limit in the box here. So if I wanted to change my limit to 200, I could change it. I could decide whether I wanted a hard quota or soft quota. If you choose hard quota, it means that the person cannot go beyond their limit. They wouldn't be able to save anything else. If you choose soft quota, it means that the person can go beyond their limit, but they will simply get a warning. So you choose what you want and you click on Add. When you click on Add, you are able to choose to send an email to the administrator for notification purposes, send an email to the user who exceeded that threshold. And here you see you can also send a message. The message has a subject heading and a message body. So you can see here that you could do a lot more with File Server Resource Manager than you can actually do with NTFS. If you don't want to send an email message, you can log the event, something that we did in the NTFS. You could go to command here, and you could run a script, or you could put out a report. So the File Server Resource Manager has a lot more flexibility than the NTFS. And the point that I want you to remember here is that there are two different types of quotas that you can set. NTFS, which is the one that we have on our outline for this course, and then the File Server Resource Manager quotas, which we will do in lessons to come. But I just wanted you to see that there's a difference between the two. That is the end of this session. I want to thank you for listening.